politics. Matt Gaetz is back in the news.
Oh, boy.
Has he ever left? Is my question.
Unfortunately not.
Right.
This man, Matt Gaetz, is under investigation for sex trafficking, possibly. Allegedly.
Minors, possibly.
Yeah, allegedly. And yet he still has his committee assignments. And one such was on the, was it not the Judicial Committee? What was this committee?
I don't know, but I know that he was talking to executive branch members because he was talking to the defense secretary and
yeah, so I think it's the Armed Forces Committee, which Matt Gaetz sits on. So they had.
First of all, if you're gonna be on the Armed Forces Committee, I believe you should at least serve, or I guess you shouldn't have to serve. But either way,
it's whatever.
I can't say Matt Gaetz. Go ahead, just keep going. I'm trying to find a reason for him not to be on it besides him being under investigation.
So they had Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. I think it's Lloyd Austin. That's his name. Yes. General Lloyd Austin is the defense secretary for President Biden. They had him there, and they also had the Joint Chiefs, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Mark Milley. What is his role? United States Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Yes. So they had Mark Milley there with Lloyd Austin to take some questions. And Matt Gaetz decides he's going to ask. He says that I've heard from a lot of people that that this training about racial inequality or whatever is like causing division within the ranks, and more specifically, I think critical race theory is causing dissension, and like it's like basically they're not working well together because of critical race theory.
Yeah.
So Lloyd Austin was talking about, well, I don't think critical race theory is something that we teach in the military, or I can't remember what answer he gave, because the answer that made the waves was Mark Milley's answer, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, where he was basically saying that that the U.S. Military Academy is a university, and that we teach critical race theory because we want to understand what has caused things to be the way they are. We want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I think if we want to serve this country, we should understand the reasons why fellow citizens would storm the Capitol to overturn the things that this country stands for and all that stuff. And
his quote was, the quote that kind of reads that is, so what is wrong with understanding having some situational awareness of the country, which we are here to defend? Yes. So basically it's like, we need to know why these people are doing this shit.
Yeah, exactly. And I really appreciated that answer because it's all that critical race theory is about, right? It's like, okay, we are here in this time and space. This is something that started in the 1970s. It was following the Civil Rights Act. And we want to understand why there's so much animosity in the South. Like what caused Jim Crow law to come, what caused this, and understanding people's psyche so that we can do better as a people and all that stuff. And critical race theory has become like the new boogeyman for the Republicans because you have people going to school board meetings in Loudoun County, Virginia, talking about, I don't want my kids learning critical race theory and all that stuff. Critical race theory is a college course. It's not they don't teach it in K through 12. It's a college course about, it's like African American studies. It's understanding where we've been, where we're going, why things are the way they are. But for some reason, it started tracking on Fox News because the whole Dr. Seuss thing was no more, playing to the audience. So they started saying, okay, let's talk about critical race theory. Ooh, it has race in the name. They're teaching your kids. Ted Cruz, this freaking liar, went out there and he said, critical race theory teaches you that all white people are racist. Critical race theory teaches you that you should hate yourself. And I said, whoa. What is going on here? It's blatant lies about the situation. And it's so frustrating to see that. So I really appreciated Mark Milley coming out to say this. However,
did you listen? You listened to the whole thing, right? Because it was
the whole thing. Yes.
It was an amazing thing that he said. He was basically saying, and then what I like about what Austin said was, we're not teaching. We don't care about people's ideologies.
Yes.
We don't care about their thoughts. We care about their actions. We care about what they do. I.e., we care if they storm the Capitol. You know, I'm pretty sure we care if they're sneaking in among Black Lives Matter protests and starting fires and starting, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what they're worried about. Basically, the thing that I think people hate on this thing is they're realizing really what they're talking about is domestic terrorism. And domestic terrorism is unequivocally, unequivocally, but it is majority white.
Yeah.
And that's what they hate. They don't like it. They really don't like it. Now they're starting to see what we have to deal with when our kids are starting to be targeted, right?
This country has such a hard problem with acknowledgement, just acknowledging anything. I was telling a friend of mine last week that the reason why we have a lot of the problems we have in the South still with like racism and such, the reason why we had Jim Crow after segregation and after the emancipation of slaves, right? The reason why we had all that stuff is because they were never actually told that what they did was wrong. When they ended slavery, they went, apologized to the slave owners, and gave them reparations for the slaves that they've now lost. We're sorry we're taking your property. Here is some money to get on your feet. Here is some money because you no longer can own another man. So when you give it to them that way and you tell them that you didn't do anything wrong, right? But we gotta free the slaves, okay? When you tell them like that, there's no remorse because they never actually felt like they did anything wrong to begin with. And that is carried over all these years. So of course you're gonna have people feeling like they can storm the Capitol and they can do things like that because they've always been put on this pedestal. They've never actually had to atone for anything. So, it's hard to get past where we are in this country. There was a tweet I saw that I thought was pretty interesting, and it was a Black lady, and she said it's very telling that it took a white man telling you guys about critical race theory for you to understand why it's important, even though Black women have been telling you this for decades. Yeah. Right? Like critical race theory was started by a Black woman, and they've been like explaining for decades what the purpose of the course is and all that stuff. And like, oh, it sounds like Marxism and stuff like that. But it takes Mark Milley to say it where people are like, oh, this makes sense. Yeah. And I get the frustration about that, but I also understand that this is where allies come into play, right? Like sometimes you need someone on their side of the spectrum to lay it down for them to finally be like, oh, I understand now. Sorry for being dumb. Yeah.
It's sad because men need mansplaining a lot of times in order to get things, especially particular men that just don't want to hear it because they think it's you're criticizing me, you hate me, you're attacking me, all that stuff. I feel like, but if it's one of your own, you can't say a black person or a Hispanic person or whatever, or a woman comes at you, is like, oh, you're just saying that because you haven't gotten ahead in life, or because you think that you keep using your race as an excuse to not getting certain things. But then you have this white guy's like, I'm white, I'm also a general, I'm powerful in the military. I'm telling you what it is.
Had Lloyd Austin said what Mark Milley said, it wouldn't have played as widely as it did, right? It's because it came from a white army guy. That's why it matters so much. And it's sad, but actually it's kind of.
If you think about it, so the general had to make the speech and explain why critical race theory is something that should be taught at the university and why it's important.
Yeah.
Austin had to be the one to be basically saying, all right, he said this philosophy, now he's the one that has to stop you from trying to talk down to that philosopher. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
he basically was his, I wouldn't say not assistant. What's a good word to use? His backup. He's basically his general. Like he was his general in that speech because it was just one of those things that, you know, I don't know, man. It's like y'all keep fighting tooth and nail against this kind of stuff. Like they keep. The thing is though, you're fighting against education. You're fighting against being educated. It's not indoctrinated. It's not an indoctrination. It's an education. You don't have to believe that this stuff is true, but we're going to tell you exactly what is.
They are literally so okay. Critical race theory, you know, is like, you know, it is a theory. You know, even though I mean things happened, but there are school districts around the country that are actively trying to remove from the curriculum any conversation about this the Civil War, about slavery and all that stuff, because it breeds resentment or division. And that, I mean, that is some Mein Kampf level type of stuff. Whereas like we're not going to teach you about these things that actually happened. We're going to whitewash history. I mean, that's how the whole Tulsa massacre thing came about anyway. How like none of us knew about it till like recently, because of all the whitewashing.
What was it? Night Watch or no?
Watchmen. Yeah, because of all the whitewashing of history, and they try to do that again. They're like, we don't want this school to teach about the Civil War.
And I'm afraid if that's going to happen, because at least the Native Americans, they told us about the Trail of Tears, right? They did tell us about the Trail of Tears, and it wasn't as explained as badly as it was. But now they're starting to have history books that say, what's it called? The Americans asked the Native Americans for their land, and the Native Americans agreed and got their stuff and moved away.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yo, bro, like when Germany went through in order for them to recover from the Nazi regime, they acknowledged it. They outlawed that particular party for obvious reasons. And I don't know if they did reparations. I think they did do reparations, right?
I'm pretty sure they did, yeah. There's not a lot of atonement. They took down statues. They didn't freaking build statues.
And all the stuff that was negative that they kept up, they turned them into museums for education, right? It's just
it's crazy. And one more thing on this topic. Tucker Carlson.
This guy. Okay, what did he say?
He did a whole segment of him. He called Mark Milley a pig. He said that he got to that station not because he's particularly smart or like he was deserving of the station. Mark Milley is a Princeton graduate. He runs tables around most people when it comes to knowledge of things, wanting to understand why things are the way they are. So to say that he's uneducated and he only got there because he kissed the right butts and all that, so like Tucker Carlson.
I wish Jon Stewart would pull what he did with Crossfire and just go on Tucker Carlson's show and just verbally bitch slap him, and then and get him canceled.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson. I mean, this is supposed to be the party of the military, right? Part of the armed forces. Also, the Back the Blue Party. There was a lot of Capitol police officers that were hurt that day, but you don't want to hold people accountable because, God forbid, we make Trump look bad. But we're also the Back the Blue Party, and now you're talking about the Joint Chiefs of Staff in this way because you don't like what he says about critical race theory. Like, they're showing their colors. They're only black, the blue, and they're only military first when it suits their
ideology. Yeah, that is it. We're gonna. I want to just on a light note. So, mansplaining just reminded me of. Did you see the joke that I put on Facebook? The thing that I shared on Facebook. It's hilarious to me. I started cracking up because it was like, ladies, mansplaining is short for man explaining. You're welcome. And I shared it, and every woman that read it laughed because they understood that it was a joke. But I just thought it was hilarious.
You're mansplaining.
I'm just explaining it.
Oh, okay.
I'm just explaining it.
My bad.
That's it. I'm just explaining.